I'd like to start with a song. It's been a hobby of mine all my life, and I just write messages and poems into my songs. This is going to be related to what I'm going to share with you tonight. She came into this world, her daddy didn't want a girl. All she wanted was him to love her, oh it hurt. Learned to lift 100 pounds, she got 1,000 A's to make her father proud. But he was busy working overtime, didn't notice her. Oh, what happens to the girls that don't find love? Oh, what happens to the girls that don't find love? She was 15, a beauty queen. She got so much attention, never seen. Didn't know it was a substitute for love. She got trapped one day and couldn't get away, and she lost her innocence that day, and she's never been the same. Oh, what happens to the girls that don't find love? Oh, what happens to the girls that don't find love? Well, the goddess came down and said, love yourself and be your own best friend when there's nobody else. Be the love you seek, be the love, be the love, and send it out like a rainbow. And be the love you seek and send it out like a rainbow. Thank you. My name is Bridget Marian Love. I'm a women's empowerment leader, you may have guessed. I'm author of the upcoming book, The Return of Sacred Feminine Empowerment for Women. Besides being a registered nurse for 25 years, I am a metaphysical energy nurse. You could say I'm soon to get a doctorate in the metaphysical healing arts. And I'm also an ordained reverend in the Wisdom of the Heart Church. Empowerment is really very personal for me. It happened one day. Actually, I'll start with my 3.5-year marriage that almost took my life and almost destroyed my face. I had so many batterings on my head and my face that it took years to recover. And I want to tell you about the day in 1980 in December. It was a day like any other day. I would be going to work at the electronics factory, and I would be picking up my husband from the bar after work. I only lived a couple of blocks away, so I thought I'll stop home before I go, could change a little bit, grab something. And there was a knock on the door, and a friend had come. She was carrying a plastic bathtub, little bathtub with lots of little baby clothes in them. So of course I had to thank her, thank you so much, this is so kind of you. And I was a little concerned because I was running late. And I finally got down to the bar and grill where my husband, he had gone to high school in that area and his friends hung out there. He worked at the post office. He got off at 6 a.m. And this is nearly like 4 p.m., 5 p.m. And I drove up, parked the car, and reached over to get my purse on so I could get out and go in. And as I exited the car, I was surprised by my ex-husband, and he grabbed my purse, yanked it off my arm, and shoved it in the back, the trunk. Of course, he had keys to my car. That started about 4 hours of probably the worst night of my life. And besides being taken to several locations, being thrown out of the car on the freeway, Highway 101, and then urinated on while I was unconscious, and dragged around, finally, an ambulance picked me up when I was unconscious on the railroad tracks behind that bar and grill, because somehow we had gone to several locations. I do not remember the end of that. I just remember waking up in the emergency room. All of my clothes had been cut off. They had been completely drenched with blood. And I had a broken nose, a broken jaw, 3 broken ribs, a dislocated shoulder, and I was desperate, you can imagine. So I ended up being in that emergency room on a gurney for many hours and praying. I had my hands on my belly because I was pregnant with my first child. About 4 to 5 months pregnant with my first child. So I said to myself, you know, this cannot go on. I can never have this happen to me again. I can't have this happen with my child home here. Just at that moment, the nurse walked in and she said, Bridget, I have referred you to a battered women's safe home, and you will not be going home. You know, that nurse saved my life that day. What I'd like to share with you is that a horrible trauma like that can completely disconnect you from your body and your spirit. It's called dissociation. Has anybody heard of that? Dissociation? Yes, but do you know what that means? What happens, and because I had been sensitized to many, many beatings, my control center of my brain, this is the part that controls your body and regulates it, had been set in with a fear factor. I'm sure you've heard of the fight or flight response. There is another component of that maybe we don't know. It's called freeze. Fight, flight, or freeze. So this is something that's out of our control, and it actually has to do with it's like opium, goes into our bloodstream and just anesthetizes us. It's kind of like it's preparing you for getting hurt. Another part of the brain that's affected with post-traumatic stress, which I suffered from for many years, is it's in the middle of the brain, and it's a regulator of what you filter in and out from all the stimulus that you get. You know, it's always happening around you, but your brain, to keep you on track, has to say, nah, that's not important. But what happens with post-traumatic stress is that you fail to regulate. You're always looking for danger, right? And the final thing about post-traumatic stress that maybe you haven't heard about is that in the top part of the brain, like the frontal cortex, it changes how you feel about yourself. So shame, guilt, I'm no good, I'm not worthy, I'll be always, attracting these kinds of situations. But the good news is you can rise above trauma, and it's not like you bounce back. It is a step-by-step process that requires that you rebuild your energy get back your voice, and claim your power. So what do I do with all of that education that I felt I had to get to value myself again? Is that I put all of those energy work, the nursing, the energy medicine, and the spiritual medicine into my business, which is Sacred Feminine Spirit. And my mission with Sacred Feminine Spirit is to give you solid empowerment skills, teach you how to rebuild that energy. Because if you do, you're going to restore balance that offsets the stress and the burnout, and then gets you back in alignment with your personal goals, not their goals for you. And with activating your voice, you will free your truth. You'll be able to share. I couldn't share this story until now. You'll be able to share your wisdom, and that opens doors of opportunity and connection for you. But finally, seizing the power, right? That's one of the hardest things. And I believe a spiritual path will lead you to that empowerment. So that is how I incorporate all of the energy work into my business. There's been a rise in empowerment for women. Every minute, 20 people in the United States are involved in domestic abuse. This is men and women. It's not such a disparity between men and women. Men have a lot of abuse toward them as well. And so this is for everyone. And if you count every minute 20 people, what do you think that ends up in 1 year? That's 10 million incidences of, intimate partner, could be your, someone you love. There's some violence going on there. And what can we do about that to empower each other to come together to solve this problem? Women and men together. We have to come together to lead our lives with more love. That's why I call it Sacred Feminine Spirit. Do you think men have a feminine spirit? Yes, they do. Everyone has a balance of male and masculine and feminine energy. But how do we get to this point where there's so much disparity? We suppress the feminine spirit because it's not really inspired for us to embrace our feminine side, especially for the men. But even the women feel like we gotta play the man's game. I know I did, being in corporate for many years. And I have to say, I don't have to do that anymore. And it's only been recently when I could look in the mirror and not think, ugh, feminine? That's inferior. It's yucky, it's weak, it's vulnerable. And that is not true, because with the feminine spirit, you get giving and caring and kindness and patience, compassion, humility, and love. Those are the essential ingredients to create harmony in our world. So I invite you to embrace your feminine spirit, lead your life with love, and help to empower others to do the same around the world. Thank you.